riders, Robert Miller on the left and Sean Yates, who's now taking up the pacemaking yet again. Stephen Roach isn't too far away. It's interesting to note that Pensek continually rides in third or fourth place in this line, might well be looking for the win. And of course, remember a year ago when we came into Manchester in the first Kellogg's Tour of Britain from Newcastle, it was in fact Joey McLaughlin who was the winner here then. He's not too far away either, and McLaughlin naturally went on to win the race overall. So we still have Elliott on the front. I beg your pardon, we still have Yates on the front. Elliott's the man in the yellow jersey, and every time Sean Yates comes around that corner, he almost clips those barriers with his shoulder.
Well, Sean is a little bit of a kamikaze. It's amazing how he just pushes it right to the limit every time. I think it comes a little bit from the fact that in his spare time he likes to ride a motorbike, and he gets a big thrill when he can touch the floor with his knees. I think he's trying to do the same thing with those barriers with his shoulders today. Robert Miller comes through now on Sean to do his little turn at the front as they're keeping the pace very, very high. But behind them, what will be happening now is all the sprinters in this group will be moving up to the front to wait for the next 2 laps, because that's when they'll be moving into the limelight to try and steal the glory.
There we are, 2 laps to go as we pass the town hall. And Robert Miller is the rider now doing his little bit at the front. And Yates gritting his teeth here and doing a tremendous job. Pensek there in third place. And just a little bit further down the line, I think we've got Stephen Roach. I can also see Malcolm Elliott. The green jersey there of Joey McLaughlin. Elliott's chosen to follow Joey McLaughlin's wheel. Elliott in yellow, McLaughlin in the green jersey as points leader. But in fact, for the moment at least, Malcolm Elliott also leads in that competition, and McLaughlin is the guest wearer of the jersey because he is in fact in second overall place as the second most consistent rider in the Tour this year so far. Still, we have the Fagor pair on the front. As we go back a little way, just a little bit further around the circuit, we've got the stragglers coming in. They are in fact just on 6 minutes behind, but the gap on the circuit means that this leading group here is beginning to get them in their sights. Now, this could be a serious situation if the group picks up those stragglers, because it would mean a very, very confusing finish, and that would give the judges, not to say the riders, 1 or 2 problems. Let's see. Let's hope, in fact, that doesn't happen. Yates, the man from Forest Row in Sussex, having his best ever season and now doing all of the work here to keep this race together in the hope that Malcolm Elliott in the yellow will do a City of York finish and win here in Manchester in a couple of minutes' time.
Well, it always amazes me the position that Sean Yates has on his bike, because it's so aggressive. It's down, for a big man, he's down so low on that bike, as you can see him rocking his shoulders, getting every last little bit of energy out now. He's gritting his teeth there. Sean, amazingly up there in third place overall, not even thinking about that. His teammate, Malcolm Elliott, is leading. Sean in third place doesn't mean anything to him at all. All it means, all he's worried about is getting Malcolm Elliott there in a suitable position to try and keep hold of this yellow jersey. There you can just see Stephen Roach has now moved past Pensek into third place, and again, as the day before, we've got the 3 English-speaking Fagor riders defending the lead of Malcolm Elliott.
Well, coming up towards the bell this time, we're catching glimpses all of the time of that straggling group not too far ahead. This is going to be touch and go, because if anybody from this group can take a flyer into the lapped riders as they would be, the confusion could mean a win for somebody here that will not be Malcolm Elliott. We're on the final lap of the centre of the circuit of Manchester now, and that's Robert Miller still insisting on keeping this pace high, and Sean Yates content too to stay up there in second place. We should be seeing now the progress of the man in yellow, and there he is, Malcolm Elliott, still on the wheel of Joey McLaughlin. The world champion Stephen Roach in third place. This is a fine effort by Robert Miller now to keep this line as long and thin as possible, to stop anybody lifting the pace anymore, to make progress up the bunch towards the sprint finish. So the order then: Miller on the front, Yates changing up a gear as he stays in second place. We can't quite see it, but there we are. Stephen Roach, the world champion, is third. Malcolm Elliott now taking a close line in fifth place. One or two intruders trying to get through there, and if they do, well, that will cause a little bit of confusion for everybody concerned. This is a great ride here by Robert Miller. You can't take any of this away from him. If Malcolm Elliott wins tonight, the first man he should thank are these two, Miller and Yates, because they're setting it up as best they know how. That is Willie Willems there on the right in the lime green jersey, a younger professional rider who is in trouble on the climb of Home Moss. He certainly isn't now. He's on the flat roads. Home from home in the centre of Manchester, always the chance. Suffer when it hurts and get back in the action when you recover. That's the motto in professional cycling. And still at that barrier there, it's Yates who comes round, keeps it tight, but surely he can't keep this up now. McLaughlin has taken second place. Elliott consistently following Joey McLaughlin there. Won't come off his wheel, stays there in his slipstream. McLaughlin knows it now. McLaughlin looked to his left, didn't see Elliott, looked to his right and saw him. But this now is an attack by the PMS Doors team. It's John Clay going again. John Clay has the advantage now. McLaughlin's chasing Clay. Elliott's chasing McLaughlin. And this is John Clay now trying for the victory. McLaughlin through on the inside first. That first rider's a straggler, looks over his shoulder. So there is a little bit of confusion here because that's a straggler. This is the race for the line and McLaughlin's going to get it. Joey McLaughlin repeats history on the line. He did it a year ago. On that occasion, he went on to win the Kellogg's Tour. I wonder what he's thinking now. Joey McLaughlin beats the current leader of the Kellogg's Tour, Malcolm Elliott, and he did it right on the line. Well, here we can see how he did it. He held his line very tight. He kept Elliott on his left shoulder, pushed him wide, and then sprinted for the line. His face tells the story. Victory is Joey's. That's how to do it. So there then is the result. Joey McLaughlin the winner, Elliott pushed back to second, John Clay third, Barnes and Kelly. That's the order. And no wins today in the King of the Mountains competition for Mauro Giannetti, but a very consistent day indeed. He keeps his lead in that competition. There's the confirmation, 8 points advantage over Sean Kelly, a great day, and Stephen Hodge as well, a good day for him. Chris Lillywhite is fourth, Malcolm Elliott is fifth. Now we're looking here at the white jersey, and that final sprint here in the city of Manchester was enough for Nick Barnes. He's now got the overall lead by a single point off Malcolm Elliott, with Mark Walsham third. A look then at the overall situation. Malcolm Elliott on top of the pile, leading by 20 seconds from Joey McLaughlin. In third place, Elliott's teammate Sean Yates. Fourth, the world champion Stephen Roach. And fifth, Thomas Wegmuller, Sean Kelly's teammate from the CAS team. A little bit further down the list, you've got Ronan Pensek in 7th slot. And Kelly was the big improver yesterday. He moved up from 10th to 9th overall. One man already out on the road very early this morning, Paul McDowell. He's out on the course to give us now the complete rundown on what faces the riders today on the road to Liverpool.
Unfortunately, a lot of low clouds spoiling what is one of the most scenic routes from Manchester to Liverpool on this third stage. I'm at the top of the Trough of Bowland. If you've never heard of it or been here, it is in fact one of Lancashire's most famous beauty spots. It takes them 1,500 feet above sea level. It's a Category 2 climb. And it's here too that yesterday's stage winner Joey McLaughlin has put in many hours of practice. Well, will that familiarity aid him in his...
Well, the riders then lining up here in Albert Square in Manchester. And a lot of riders, in fact, are local to this area because the northwest of England has turned out some marvellous racing cyclists over the years. Many, many national champions and indeed world champions such as Norman Shiel, who came from Liverpool. Here we are then on the way. And this is Mark Walsham, the British circuit race champion in the Percy Bilton team. Steve Jones in the blue sleeves on the far side there, chatting with the two Fager boys, Malcolm Elliott in yellow, of course, Sean Yates, Steve Sefton on the left. Now, what's happening at the back of the race? This, in fact, is Dave Mann, our breakaway hero yesterday. Seems to be making a wheel adjustment and getting back in the race. And Joey McLaughlin too, dropping back to his team car, driven by team manager Roger Leger, and wow, he's gone. Well, all that's behind the race during the neutralised section, because the flag they're denoting now that the race is starting, and the race now is officially underway. Or is it? It it looks as though it's still time for a phone call for Stephen Roach here, the world champion, keeping an eye on things from the back. What would he have done in the days without cellular phones? So here we are now, coming into Rochdale here, the site of the first TV time sprint, and this is Andy Johnson on the attack for the Air Marshal team, and it's good to see this young team having a go. They don't seem to be at all afraid of the competition this year in the race. Johnson then clear. This, I think, the most trickiest of all the sprints so far in the TV time sprint. It goes through a number of chicanes, around a couple of roundabouts as it crosses right through the centre of Rochdale. Well, Johnson has the lead at the moment, but the field are closing up rapidly on him. Remember, the leader of this competition is Nick Barnes. He wears the white jersey. That looks like Barnes trying to move in on the action now in third place. And Nick Barnes going here on the left of the picture. It's a difficult sprint, this one, but he gets it. Good for Nick Barnes. Maximum points. Mark Walsham second, and Alan Percy, a new professional of just a few days, in third place. Well, all the way we've been heading out here towards the Lancashire moors, and the low clouds have been coming down and down, and it could be that very soon we're going to be into the first of the wet stages of this year's Kellogg's Tour. Caping up, Paul, for Stephen Roach.
Well, this is a very dangerous time in most of the races, because a lot of the teams send riders back to the team cars to pick up these racing capes, and a lot of riders at the back will struggle to get back onto the climb, because they've been back into the team cars getting racing capes for the team leaders. You can see one or two of the riders here struggling.
Well, they've chosen a bad time, because we're on what is quite a long climb here out of Bacup. This is the first of the two climbs today. It's only a third category. I think the judges a little bit hard here, because this is quite a difficult climb. And we've got Lillywhite up here in second place, who's trying to do well on the climbs. Remember his rivalry with Gianetti. That is Gianetti just over the back in the blue hat. You can spot him. He's riding on the shoulder of Chris Lillywhite. Stephen Hodge here is coming to the front too for the Cass Mavic team, because Sean Kelly is also challenging in this mountains competition. And if you can see the two yellow riders in the background there, Sean Kelly is the one on the left, and he's waiting to see sight of the finish of the climb before he makes a move.
As we come up to the you can see Stephen Hodge there, who's actually leading his own sprint out with looks like Frederick Vichot is leading out Gianetti before. This is quite a reasonable tactic to keep the speed high, so that the two riders going for the just back there, looks as if Sean Yates just nearly clipped a car. They're leading the sprint out, so that the riders going for the sprint don't have to make too long an effort into the wind.
So the riders on the wet roads, remember, and they're a little bit greasy because we haven't had too much rain. But now the sprint beginning to be wound up here by Stephen Hodge in the centre of the picture. Lillywhite on the left trying to get round Hodge. Hodge has opened the running for the line then. Remember, Gianetti isn't too far behind in the white jersey there. But we've got Hodge here on the left of the corner. And it looks as though we've also got on the behind him now Lillywhite, Gianetti. These three are going clear. Hodge is making a break for it. Good positioning here by Lillywhite. Kelly sprung onto the scene there from nowhere. 100 metres to go now. Kelly in fourth place. They've got Gianetti boxed on the inside as Lillywhite opens the sprint. Lillywhite checks out the opposition. He sees Kelly. Good enough though. Lillywhite gets it. Kelly is second, and the judges have awarded Gianetti the third place. So good scoring then by Lillywhite, and the two rivals neck and neck for that one. Well, the very slippery descent here. The riders taking no chances. This is Darrell Webster on the front, a rider who picked up no less than 40 British medals in championships before he turned professional this year, and yet another rider out of action until now because of injury. Well, on the long descent here, the riders keeping it in check at around 45 miles an hour, which for this sort of descent is not terribly quickly. So time for Roach to make another phone call, this time with his cape on. So whatever the subject was earlier, this is the return coming up now. Well, they never cease to amaze me, these bike riders, but they've chosen to neutralise the race a little bit here. The road's drying out again as the world champion shows us off again his rainbow jersey. And in fact, Alan Gornall here now, who had been allowed a lead earlier on to go and visit friends in Clitheroe, and he's now coming back to the main field. And this is Stephen Roach here, absolutely sprinting out of the pack, it appears, to speak with Gornall. And I've got a feeling that that Roach here is not at all amused at the time that Alan Gornall has spent out front. Well, the riders all back together again, and the pack do have this rule amongst themselves that they let riders go out and meet friends, and then they must come back, and it looks to me as though they weren't too bothered earlier on, but they didn't like what happened afterwards. Now we're on to the Trough of Bowland here, heading out now into the wilds of Lancashire. Malcolm Elliott looking a little bit wet and bedraggled for the moment in that yellow jersey, and in fact, Paul, all of the riders are looking to me as though they've not enjoyed this early rain.
Well, it's hardens up the muscles quite a lot, the rain, and you notice that now that they're getting to the climb, all the riders, although it's still very damp, they're taking off the raincoats so they can breathe a lot better, because you find when you race in these raincoats, it tends to overheat you quite a lot, and when you get to the strategic point, they all start ripping off the raincoats again.
Well, there's plenty of action going on at the front now as the field is beginning to be strung out a little bit. One or two news is reaching us in retirements today, I'm afraid. Pascal Richard, the world cyclocross champion who crashed out of the Tour de France, has abandoned this morning already. And also Glenn Coltman has left us, so two riders out of the race today. And now you can see the field here is now well strung out as they start to come along the main moorland roads. One or two shouts there from the crowd as we look now through the rain on our camera lens, and attacked by a rider there in a white jersey. That'll be La Wyman Suisse colours going clear. The pack are not reacting at all. They've seen him go, there's no doubt about that, because you've got that arrowhead on the front of the pack, but he's going clear. And this looks to me as though it's Serge Demier, the Swiss member of the new team that's formed this year. And they're having a tremendously successful season. They're led by Steve Bauer, the Canadian, normally. And there's confirmation of that. Demier it is. And what about him, Paul? A strong man indeed.
Well, Demier is a very renowned rider for this kind of attack. He's actually been a professional since 1977. He won a stage in the Tour de France in 1983 in a lone effort like this. He also won a time trial in around about 1983 as well with his teammate Daniel Gissiger. So this solitary effort, he's quite used to it.
Well, let's see what the bunch think of this. The gap is opening and the field are looking to me as though they're beginning to chase a little bit. It's a long, long way to go, of course, as we go down towards Dunsop Bridge and on the Trough of Bowland. And once on that climb, who knows what could happen. Demier, remember, is a long break specialist, but he's facing now 77 miles on his own. That is rather an awesome prospect. On the climb now of the Trough of Bowland, couple of chasing riders trying to get clear down there of the field and take up the chase as they now enter the trough itself. This climb, by the way, is very narrow. The crowd's reported on the summit to be quite large.
Well, there you can see the BH rider who was chasing, trying to get across to Serge Demier, followed by the policeman of the Wyman team to prevent him getting across. Demier's attacked at a very strategic point here. It's very narrow roads, and if he can get a lead of about 20-25 seconds, what will be advantageous to him is the fact that it's a question of out of sight, out of mind, but it's very hard to get that initial 25 seconds.
Well, he's riding very, very well indeed. I must tell a little story while we're looking here at Demier on the climb of the Trough of Bowland, because when Sean Kelly went up this hill at 18 years of age in the milk race a few years ago now, because he's 32, he was lying in third place overall in the event when his bike collapsed and he finished many, many minutes behind when he was certain to have achieved third place in that event at 18. And I would have thought that Sean Kelly would have been demoralised beyond belief. He certainly wasn't, and of course, as we all now know, he's gone on to be the #1 rider in the world. This then, after that little anecdote, is the back of the field today in the second Kellogg's Tour of Britain, and Kelly is in that big bunch somewhere, and this is the rider doing the damage out front. The climb then of the Trough of Bowland, and Serge Demier almost looked to me as though he had a little sneeze then, probably caught a chill already after the rain falling an hour or so ago. Not too bad the weather here, in fact now it's beginning to warm up a bit and the cloud lifting, but a lot of descending to go. This is the last climb of the day. It's not been a difficult stage for climbing. This is the high spot, some 1,500 feet, and it's going to be a difficult day for the riders to judge. Let me tell you straight away that this rider is over 17 minutes behind on the overall classification. He lies in 47th place.
They'll try and get the chase organised, but for the moment this man isn't dangerous to them overall, so when they get over the top of the climb without disorganising the team, they'll start to arrange the chase on the descent down the valley roads. But for the moment they're giving him a little bit of a leeway.
One of the Spanish riders here, Merguialdi, I think it is having a little respite at the back of the race. The Spanish team has not had a great tour already. They've lost a rider, they've struggled a little bit, so they've not really taken part in this race at all. Well, Demir seems to be enjoying himself at least. He's been twice the champion of Switzerland, once as an amateur, once as a professional. We go back to 1983 when he picked up the professional title. He's looked over the back there to see where the group is. Well, he's seeing the whole pack, in fact, because the two chasers we saw have gone back into the main group. There is no one in between. The red jersey on the right at the front there is Rob Holden, this amazing 20-year-old, the youngest man in the race, who's holding on to that leader's red jersey as this race unwinds. And there's only a few more days to go down to the city of Westminster. Will be very, very fine indeed for Holden if he can survive what is still a lot of racing to come. The amazing thing about this race here, as we watch the third day on the Trough of Bowland, is that only a few seconds separate a lot of riders. In fact, the first 17 riders overall are only separated by 58 seconds. So really, this race could turn upside down almost at a minute's notice. There they are. You can get a little bit of the aspect of the gradient of the Trough of Bowland from my helicopter here as it follows them up the hill. The yellow jersey riding not too far away from the front. The crowd loving every minute of this. There is a massive crowd here. This race catching on so quickly, and the crowd seems to be turning out at the most remote points of the course all day long. Just look at them now, enjoying the sight of the Swiss rider Serge Demier go up the mountain. And look at that cutting through the trough. Wonderful sight indeed. And we get a lot of letters coming into us about the beauty that the race takes, the course it takes, and it really does show everybody Britain at its very best. I'm not sure, in fact, whether Demier appreciates it quite as much as we do. Towards the summit then now for Serge, the lead over half a minute. We're hearing that information over the main pack, so he's labouring, in fact, Paul, to get the gap as he comes inside 200 metres to go.
Well, as he's coming just up to the top here, all Demier is probably thinking about is when are these service cars going to come up behind me so that I know what my time gap is, because at the moment, until he's got the team cars behind him, he probably thinks that the gap is below 30 seconds, and he's still waiting for some kind of confirmation. When he gets down on the descent, then he can start trying to build up his lead as he just comes over the top.
Well, they must have heard you, Paul, because there's the time gap come up now, 39 seconds. So the narrow roads are probably the reason that the team cars haven't joined him, because they can't get through the mass of riders here at the moment. This is the chasing group coming up now, and the green jersey of Joey McLaughlin was quite evident there, and so too was the yellow jersey of Malcolm Elliott. This, of course, the last mountain climb today, so we'd expect to see Gianetti in the action sooner or later. And the rider number 50 here, who's in all sorts of trouble, is Paul Brown at the back of the race. But there's plenty of time to rejoin the main pack, because once over the top, there's quite a long descent. And then, of course, we're on the flat roads heading down towards the Merseyside coastline. And this is now Demier on the way down, heading towards the base. While we're looking at Stephen Roach here leading the group up towards the top, and I think that's Sean Kelly also having a go, watching everybody else go with him. But Kelly also going over the top there. He will get second place, and it looks as though Gianetti didn't score well then either. So if we can have a look now at the situation on the King of the Mountains, there it is. Demier wins 10 points. Kelly is second, Roach third, Gianetti fourth. So Sean Kelly had a great day in the mountains today. Well, we're back with the leader here now. Let's remind you, he broke away as we approached the climb of the Trough of Bowland, and now he's working to try and bring back some of the time he's lost over the last 2 days, because he started this morning over 17 minutes behind the race leader Malcolm Elliott. And look at this. From our helicopter, we're panning back down the course. The cars in the distance there indicate the location of the main field. I don't actually see the riders. There they are, coming out of the trees, so they're just ahead of all the cars. and the gap confirmed at 3 minutes 15 seconds. So I suspect, Paul, that sort of a gap, he must be now approaching a mile in the lead.
Well, yeah, when he's gone away down the descent, Demier's had a better chance to take the corners, which is still very damp from the rain this morning. He's got a better line around the corners than this bunch, who have probably taken it a little bit more careful, because it's very dangerous on these descents, and they've let him go somewhat down the descent.
When he broke away, Paul, would he have been thinking of staying away to the finish, or just to try and win the climb over the trough?
Well, I think the kind of attack that he's launched here is really to try and get away and win the stage, because there's a lot of team tactics involved at the moment. The Fagor team are leading with third placed overall Sean Yates. The Kelly's up there as well, so there's a bit of poker going on between these two teams, deciding who's going to chase, and Demier is taking advantage of this, waiting to see who'll chase, and maybe nobody will.
Well, at the moment, that does seem to be the answer, because nobody is attacking at all. The whole peloton is riding along in a tight group there, which indicates no reaction at all. We're going back along the rather bleak moorland road here today, and we're going up and up and up, and in the far distance, still no sign of Serge Demier as they roll away over the fells here of Lancashire. The countryside, which is so bleak in the winter and so beautiful on the nice days in the summer. And down there, way down there, the lone figure of Serge Demier, riding along British roads for a change for him. He missed the Tour de France this year, and look at this now. The gap has gone up over 5.5 minutes. So another 12 minutes on that total, only another 12 minutes, and Demier will have the yellow jersey on his shoulders. Maybe that's what he's looking for.
Well, Phil, when Demier gets to the feet here, he's got another thing to his advantage, the fact that as he goes through, he'll collect his bag, he'll put all the food into his back pocket, but behind, when the peloton comes through, it's normally absolute chaos. All the riders switching around, trying to find their bags, looking for their masseurs to get their bags, missing their bags, switching left and right to find it, especially in this country at the moment, because the foreigners are feeding on the right-hand side of the road, and the British riders are taking food on the left-hand side of the road. So it is absolutely sometimes total chaos for the riders.
Well, there we are, and Demier, by the way, only speaks French, and he's just shouted across the French masseur. It was, I think, of the Z Peugeot team, and it might well have been for a time check over the pack. Now, out of the bag comes the food that's been so carefully wrapped during the evening and early morning by the mechanics and masseurs, all in the back pockets. This is the main field now, led by Bernard Richard, a teammate, the fifth member of the Fagor team, and the one we haven't seen too much of during the attacking riding by that team. Here's the main field, then into the field. World champion Roach snatches the food for the day, so too Robert Miller, and there goes I think it was Bernard Richard also taking his bag, Malcolm Elliott in yellow, Sean Yates, all the men, and it looks like a problem. You heard Paul Schoen mentioning the trouble at the feeding stations generally. Well, we've got one here, because in fact little Stephen Jockin here has fallen off at the back of the group, and it looks to me as though the British champion in a little bit of pain there. Roach now riding at the front, no-handed, unpacking the food bag. And again, Paul, still no sign at all of a reaction.
Well, the riders obviously realise Demier's are nowhere overall, because they'd have been informed by their team managers, and there's no time yet as Roach is coming up to offer he's offering a Mars bar to the cameraman. He's obviously got a lot of spare food today.
He's in high spirits too. He's made a couple of phone calls. That's probably ruined the race budget for the year. And now we're back with the leader here, talking to the race organiser, Alan Rushton. And one has to say what a marvellous job he does too with his team of helpers. This is an enormous lead he's built up now. It's up to 10 minutes. And Alan Rushton has probably just told that fact to Serge Demier. And by the way, when they tell the leader, they make a point too of informing the bunch behind. There's no question of cheating amongst the organisation. And there is the small computer you saw there briefly on the forks of the leader. That is calibrated to the size of the wheel, and it doesn't just tell the distance covered. You can work all sorts of things out on it. Heading off now towards Southport, and Serge Demier, there's Southport down below. And look at this now. We've jumped to 14.5 minutes, Paul. 3 more minutes, and we've got a new leader on the road. We're now working our way through the streets of Southport, and this is the biggest crowd of the race since we left Newcastle upon Tyne on Tuesday. Absolutely enormous here. We're heading for the TV time sprint, and in fact, obviously, the leading points there will go. Around the roundabout way below is the main field, and they're being led here by Steve Jones for the sprint. John Clay now taking up the running, and the white jersey of the sprint leader, Barnes, back in the action here, looking for second place, but Mark Walsham going like a train in the yellow jersey. Walsham on the outside. It looks like it's possibly Keith Reynolds here too, but Walsham gets it, and so it's Demir, Walsham. It was Alan Percy, the new professional in the ML MBK colours, who gets the third spot on the line there. We're back with the leader here then. Number 35, Serge Demier, the longest break of the Tour of Britain this week, that is for sure now. And his lead, though, is beginning to tumble, 11.9. We've turned, by the way, into a vicious headwind since we left Southport, and it looks as though that headwind is taking its toll. A split here now in the front group. We're on the outskirts of Liverpool, and this is Keith Reynolds, who's openly attacking for the ML team. Roach has come up to him. That's a little bit of a surprise, but Roach is looking for a good ride here, and it looks like Mike Doyle from nearby Chester, just over the Mersey there, is also looking for a little bit of local glory. Mike Doyle then taking up the pacemaking. Roach in second place and Reynolds in third place. Stephen Roach, by the way, a few seconds lead here could give him the yellow jersey off his teammate Malcolm Elliott, because he started the day in fourth place.
I think the reason Roach is working here is to try and take a little bit of pressure off his team and make Cass chase.
So now we've got Serge Demier approaching the circuit in the distance there, the tower of the Liver building with the famous Liver bird on top of it. This is the city of Liverpool, and it's a Swiss rider, Serge Demier, who's bringing the whole of the Tour of Britain into the city. Here we have the chasing group that broke away on the outskirts with the whole field there. Just behind Stephen Roach in white, Mike Doyle at the back. Masked by the other two is Keith Reynolds. Doyle here from Chester, and now we're back with the leading rider on his circuits now. Something like 4 laps to go.
Well, it's still a long way to go for Demier, because in something like the last 10 miles, a rider on his own can ride at 25, 26 miles an hour and lose something like 5 or 6 minutes. As we go back to Stephen Roach here, leading the chase with Mike Doyle and Keith Reynolds sitting in there.
Well, this is a good move by Roach, because he may well steal the seconds that could suddenly switch the yellow jersey from his teammate Elliott to his, and what a comeback that would be for Stephen Roach. He couldn't really have expected to be the race leader, surely, of this race so soon into his rehabilitation. There's the leader, Serge Demier now. There's one more TV time sprint to come today, and of course there is a couple of seconds bonus there for the winner, 3 seconds in fact, and Demier really won't need those few seconds now, because he was looking originally for 17 minutes. So this is Demier, I'm sorry, this is Stephen Roach here leading the chase, and followed by Keith Reynolds and Mike Doyle. Roach seems to be the man wanting to do most of the work here. This is the sprint for second, third and fourth places in the TV times. Roach wants this because he wants the 2 seconds time bonus on the line. Roach has the lead at the moment. This, by the way, is quite a nasty little climb up to the finish line. You get some impression of it there. Roach takes the 2 seconds, so that could be crucial now. There's the confirmation. Demier gets 5 points, Roach and Reynolds, but of course it's the time bonus that Stephen Roach wanted, because now if he can hold off the pack here, led by Adrian Timmis and Gilbert Duclos-Lasalle, the riders causing concern, because Joey McLaughlin's second place is also in danger overall. McLaughlin on the left of our picture in that green jersey. That looks like the pocket rocket having a go, the rider that crashed at the feeding station, Steve Jockin now. He also comes from the Isle of Man, which is just 3 hours across the water by boat here from the city of Liverpool. And now we're back with the 3 leaders on the back of the circuit, and Roach anxious now, not getting enough work rate, it seems, out of the other 2 riders. Roach is having to do a lot of the work himself.
It's amazing to notice how Stephen is riding after his break as well. 9 months out without very much competition. All the riders in the bunch at the moment are absolutely incredulized at the speed that he's can come back. He's got that pedalling back, and if you look here, he's really pedaling as he was doing in the big days when he won the Tour de France and when he won the World Championships, but really grimacing now. This is the time when he's thinking about taking the yellow jersey from the shoulders of his teammate, but it's a help to his teammate Malcolm Elliott, because it's forcing the other teams to chase.
And in fact, speaking to him in French, there is the assistant race chief referee, Jerry McDade, because Demir hasn't a clue what is being said in English, and he's told him, in fact, that this chasing group is underway as well. Mike Doyle here, and Keith Reynolds and Roach. Now they're overtaking Demir here. Demir came onto this circuit. Let me explain straight away. Demir came onto this circuit 1 lap ahead. They've now pulled back the time because Demir on the circuit is losing approximately 2 minutes a lap to the chasing groups. There's the main bunch. Now 8 minutes was the advantage of Demir. That is already down now to 5 minutes, but I think it's unlikely, Paul, that they'll actually go a lap up on and bring him back.
Well, it's a long way around this circuit. It's a very, very hard circuit. Demir's just got to keep his speed up around about 25, 26 miles an hour. Although Roach's group here doing 28, 29 miles an hour, the chasing group in the bunch led by the Z Peugeot team may very well come back to this group, because you can see now Mike Doyle from the PMS team is sitting on a little bit and not contributing to the breakaway group.
Well, Roach certainly wants some help here. There was a moment on the previous lap when he got the seconds, in fact, were required for the leader's yellow jersey. But at the bell here now, you can see that the great chasing by Gilbert Duclos-Lasalle, the rider who finished second on the mountain climb to Luzardiden in the Tour de France, and finished up there just ahead of the winner of the Tour, Pedro Delgado. Now he's doing his workhorse speed chase here, and it's all paid off, because as Serge Demir comes up to the finishing line here, no doubt the most deserving winner of the stage so far. A breakaway of 77 miles for the Swiss rider. The former champion of Switzerland from Geneva is now a winner of the Kellogg's Tour here in the city of Liverpool. But this is the race at the back amongst the leaders themselves, and the hard chasing by the Z Peugeot boys has done the trick, because they've brought back Stephen Roach. But Demir isn't worried, and why should he be? Because for him the day is already over. Now the 3 riders, Paul, still away, but the gap closing rapidly.
Well, they've done the ideal thing here as well. If you notice, the break came back together very much down the descent, but these riders decided we don't want to give up. We've been away for a spare time now, and Mike Doyle now thinking about possibly getting second place on the stage. He's decided to try and work a little bit, as Keith Reynolds from the ML team is coming through, working a little bit. Roach trying to come through there as well.
Well, Harry Reynolds, by the way, the father of Keith, was a rider in the Tour de France almost 30 years ago. And now Keith's going to show his dad what he can do. There he is on the front of the race. He's the man on form for the ML MBK's team. And he made the attack, by the way, that Roach was very quick to spot on the outskirts of Liverpool. And so too is Mike Doyle, who knows these roads like the back of his hand, because he comes from Chester. There's Mike coming through on the inside, working well. Now Roach assessing the attack here now, and he seems to be deciding that it's not going to work, because he's no longer participating in the breakaway. May well be deciding on seeing what he can do in the sprint finish. There's the field, Paul, and now quite clearly they're out to pick him up.
Well, they're really stringing out there, and you could just see Gilbert Duclos-Lasalle suffering at the back, which is a sign of how fast this race really is. Roach, now having decided this break is not going to succeed, has decided not to contribute anymore, and he'll probably notice very soon the bunch will come back and the junction will be made.
Absolutely right, Paul, and it has been too. So as we come to the finish of the race here, the field has come all together. We're going to be treated then, it would seem, to another great sprint finish here in the Tour of Britain. Reynolds still not willing to give up, and don't forget, psychologically, if there's any relaxation, then he'll be away again. And Roach goes. That's why Roach wasn't working. The psychological point, let them think they've caught you and then jump them again. And Roach has done just that, the clever tactician of the world champion. But they're all onto him, and the yellow jersey is there too of Malcolm Elliott, the green jersey of McLaughlin. Now the battle between the two greats, the red rose versus the white rose, because they come from opposite sides of the Pennine chain. The red rose is Joey McLaughlin wearing the green jersey. The white rose is Malcolm Elliott in the leader's yellow jersey. 20 seconds is all that separates them in this year's Tour of Britain. Remember too, and let's not forget it, that McLaughlin is the defending champion of this race, which he won, and John Clay's gone down. A touch of wheels and John Clay has been dumped on the side of the road there. So goodness knows what happened. Clay's been challenging every day in these sprint finishes. He won't today. The whole field then coming together for the big sprint around the tight bend here now. And on the outside, looks to me like Sean Yates taking it wide. He's picked up Malcolm Elliott. Yates works so selflessly for Malcolm Elliott. That's Yates in the middle. Elliott's on the outside. McLaughlin here in green. Oh, they almost touched on that bend. And again. And McLaughlin now straightens out from the corner, going for home here. Elliott's got his wheels. McLaughlin comes clear. This is going to be good for Joey. Joey McLaughlin coming clear. Elliott on the inside, and he's not too pleased with whatever happened there. And McLaughlin's thrown his arms up. This is a victory for him and Liverpool, even though he's only finished second. But you have to say that sprint was questionable.
Joey, what a finish there into second place.
Fantastic. Just so pleased because of all the crowd and everything. I just didn't want to disappoint them.
One man you did disappoint was Malcolm Elliott. Now, what was going on? Can you tell us?
It was just into the last corner. Just a bit of, the usual when it comes to the last 200 metres. Nothing else really.
Malcolm's hand shot out. Did he actually touch you, do you know?
I don't know. I mean, it's just go for the line at the last 200 metres.
Do you think you were in the clear?
Yeah. All the way up the hill, yeah.
So where does this leave you now? Tomorrow?
See what happens. There's not much else you can say.
Joey, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yesterday, I wasn't too peeved about it. It was a bit rough down the finish there, and there were all sorts of problems. But today, there were enough witnesses to what happened in that sprint. It wasn't just in the finish straight. It was around the last corner. Maybe I didn't have a camera there to see. But it was pretty rough riding. Now I was actually squeezed right into the gutter and had to brake and back off, and then come back at him again. And I was coming left and then right, and I would have come back and was coming back at him, but when there's cameramen, photographers all over the road, in the corner of the road, in the edge of the road, I'm trying to come past, and of course it was coming across as well. It's no big deal. It's second or third. The difference between second or third, but it's the time that could be critical later on.
Well, as you can see, the two riders coming around here, it's very difficult at this stage of the game. The riders know that the first man into the corner is the man who's got to... the first man into the corner is the man who's going to win, because it's such a short finish up here. As Joey's coming round the outside, there's an unwritten law that bike riders have that you don't make an opponent fall, but everything else is really feasible. As you can see, Joey leaning over a little bit there. He doesn't probably know that it's Malcolm behind him. He's trying to get around the corner, get the best line that he can, and Elliott was surprised by the severity of the corner as he was trying to come upside Joey McLaughlin, who was taking the better line. Then as they come up the finishing straight, you can see Joey's bike is all over the road here. Now, this is one of the things that he always does when he sprints. He gets every little bit of energy out of his body. As you can see him looking round to see Malcolm Elliott there, he's throwing his bike, getting every last bit of energy out of it, and really, it's the way he's always sprinted. He's done this a few times. He's just so strong that he's trying to get his bike and every little bit of energy out of him. Malcolm trying to get up there, but because of the movement that Joey's throwing his bike around as he is doing, really it's hard to say whether there really is any infringement. And I think really that Malcolm was a little bit upset that Joey had beaten him in the sprint in his hometown.
Well, there we are. Paul Sherwin's opinion, I think a very fair assessment indeed there of that sprint finish. And there you can see the applause here for Joey McLaughlin, because it has been announced that McLaughlin is in the clear now, and he takes second place, and the crowd here in Liverpool love it. There is the overall situation in the points. Malcolm Elliott leads for the green jersey, McLaughlin is second, and Kelly is third. And Malcolm Elliott here, the man who keeps the yellow jersey today but loses a couple of more seconds in the overall time because of that sprint finish, because remember there are bonuses for the first 4 men to finish every day, so McLaughlin keeps nibbling away every day at Malcolm Elliott's yellow jersey. He can't feel safe yet, that is for absolute certainty. And there we have Malcolm Elliott ahead of Joey McLaughlin. Sean Yates is third, Stephen Roach fourth, Wedmuller is fifth.
And this is the route. 2 sprints there at Chester and Nantwich, and just 1 climb this morning, category 4 climb. Then it's down here into the city of Stoke, 4 times round this quite tight circuit, and the winner of each passage will receive one of these splendid trophies. There's Wedgwood, Royal Doulton, Ainsley and Spode. So those are the trophies, and that's the route that await the riders. Back now to Phil Liggett.
And thank you very much indeed, Paul. Here are the riders again. Another long day in the saddle for them. Led off here from the Albert Dock by Stephen Roach in that World Championship jersey. A title, by the way, he's got to defend, if he can, in a couple of weeks' time. Still a little time for a joke. That's always a good sign, I think, that Roach is coming back onto form. And a minor collision for Sean Kelly. Anxious to push our motorbike out of the way. Right, well, we're going, and I think I can never recall another occasion when an international bicycle race has gone through the Mersey Tunnel. So it's down under the Mersey and across onto the Wirral and into the darkness. I should imagine, Paul Sherwin, that this is rather like riding through one of those tunnels on the Galibier Pass in the Tour de France.
But fortunately, this one is very well lit, Phil. The trouble with the Tour de France descents is sometimes there's no lighting at all.
Out the other side then. And the riders are still neutralised, by the way. The lead car, driven by Pat McQuaid, waving a red and white checkered flag. And until that flag is pulled in, the riders are not allowed to race. No payment due to the riders today, although I imagine race organiser Alan Rushton will be paying the bill soon. Sean Yates, who's been one of the stars of the race this week. He really has. And there's £100 being shown on the blackboard there of referee Keith Ordas, and he's telling the riders, because a special sprint here offered by a local bike dealer, K Cycles, here in Bromborough, and it looks like Andy Johnson's going to take the £100 prize for the Marshall Solar Sport team. So that's £100 in the bank for the Air Marshall team, and a good start for them. They're one of the smaller teams in the race, but Paul Sherwin remarked to me earlier today, they really are beginning to make an impression on the race. Service on the move for Malcolm Elliott. Well, at the moment, no problems. The race is not flat out, and as I think I told you earlier in the week, you are allowed to hold on to the following team car, providing the team car does not improve the position of the rider in the bunch, and that the holding on doesn't take too long. So the attack's beginning to come here. This is Jean Manfrin of France, and the Cass Mavic team with a little extra assistance from Sport Life this week here in Britain. And Jos Lammert, Johan, and these two riders have broken clear, and we are around 18 miles into the day. A good attack, possibly. Let's see what's happening. The counter-attacks are coming up to them. This has been a very active opening few miles. I suspect that the fact they're only going to be in the saddle for something like 2 hours has given them some sort of inspiration. Stephen Roach here, looking a lot more serious than he did yesterday. You may remember the early stages, laughing and joking, 1 or 2 telephone calls. Not so today. That was Kelly. This is Robert Miller. Miller's ridden a very strong race indeed, and our old friend Neil Martin here still having trouble with his saddle. The first TV time sprint here as we enter the outskirts of Chester, and it's a good win there for Sean Yates, particularly important because in fact Yates has gathered up a 3-second time bonus there. Walsham second, the TV time sprint leader Nick Barnes was third, and it's beginning to look a battle, Paul, between Barnes, in fact, and Walsham for that jersey. But now again here, Manfrin is on the attack as we go out towards Nantwich. He's been a very active rider today, Paul. I don't know if you know very much about him. Frankly, I don't know a lot about him. He's not a new professional, is he? No,
he was actually a professional last year with the Cass team. He finished second in Paris-Bourges, a 2-day stage race in France. As you can look down the road here, you can see that he's already going very, very quickly away. I think what he's trying to do here is harden up the race, so maybe Sean Kelly can place an attack later on.
Well, that looks like Paul Verschoor, who started a counter move from the centre of the pack. He's jumped down. The best place to attack is where the leaders don't see you coming. Paul Verschoor then, he rides with a very typical Belgian style, very low, pulls himself forward on the saddle. I don't know if this is a position which they seem to preserve themselves in for the cobblestones, Paul, all the time over in Belgium.
Well, the Belgian riders do tend to ride a lot lower, and Paul Verschoor has one little nervous thing that he does is he's always adjusting his saddle, raising it up a couple of millimetres and lowering it down a couple of metres, so maybe later on we'll manage to see that.
When you think after 13 years as a professional cyclist, you get to know how high his saddle should be. Well, he's joined the leader, and so we've now got 2 men out in front. And the group is showing a little bit of lethargy here, not too willing to attack. I heard a nice story this morning from one of the journalists on the race. Apparently one of the riders we haven't seen too much of in this race, Alan Percy from the ML team, he's only been a professional for the length of this race, which started, don't forget, in Newcastle on Tuesday, and he's been attacking very early on some of the mornings, and apparently he's become the banana king because the riders are throwing bananas at him for making the race too hard early on. Well, there we are. Meanwhile, back at Nantwich in the TV time sprint, and these 2 riders now well clear. Over the front, they're not really contesting it. Neither rider's in the competition for that white jersey, but Manfrin goes over the line first. For sure to take second place. The battle really there will be for third spot and the remaining point, and here it is now. This is the leader of the competition, Barnes, much more determined than the other 2 were. Barnes scoring one nicely here over his arch rival. I think he lost some of his food as well there, out of his back pocket, but there's confirmation. Manfrin, Verschuren and Barnes. The man Barnes beat was Mark Walsham. This is a competition developing now very much between those 2 riders, and it could in fact find its climax in Westminster on Sunday afternoon. We hope you'll be down there to see that great afternoon out, by the way. Back with the leaders then, the gap growing all the time here. 7:23 it was, and the leaders have gone through this level crossing, and this is the main field. Now the rule here is quite explicit. If the leaders had been stopped, they would have been given the gap again, but if the main field is stopped, there's absolutely nothing you can do. You can't go forward and stop the leaders, so they are now gaining time, while the bunch, I'm afraid, have to cool their heels. And doesn't it seem a long time? Train goes through. The judges are saying, in fact...
I ever saw when I raced abroad for the first time. He'd won 33 races that year, and he was the reigning Belgian champion. There was a race in Spain that Tyrone called the Tour of Malaga, and he won 6 of the stages, and so I was somewhat impressed.
I would imagine you were. I would have been too. Well, he's been a pro now for 13 seasons. A long time. This is the only climb. It's a 4th category climb, and it's coming just before we hit Newcastle under Lyme, on the outskirts of the city of Stoke-on-Trent, and Manfrin is really now keeping this tempo high. They've been told now that the lead is going up towards the 10-minute mark here, so they know that barring accidents, they're going to contest the sprint finish together down in Stoke-on-Trent. The main field are quite clearly no longer interested. They've got the distance. A little bit disheartened perhaps by the closure of the level crossing as we go over the M6 motorway now, and that's a sure sign we're on the outskirts of Stoke.
Out or to come from behind, and it is a difficult decision to have to make.
Well, here are the 2 leaders, and Manfrin is on the front. Look at that now, Paul. 10 minutes 20 seconds, so there's no doubt we're looking at the winner. It's a question of which one we're looking at. Kelly on the front here. This is on the climb, and this race has got quite hard now. Gianetti goes on the far right. Lillywhite again, the rider who he's been in contention with for these mountains. A good sprint by Chris Lillywhite. He really is the master of the short sprints on the climbs. Lillywhite gets the odd point there in the King of the Mountains. Gianetti doesn't score, but there won't be any change overall in that competition. And now here we are outside Stoke Station and the North Staffordshire Hotel, as that is the finishing line in 4 laps time for the 2 leaders. A little bit further back, Lillywhite is causing a little bit of trouble in the main field by that sprint, because it looks to me as though the bunch here is beginning to split up. Darrell Webster having a go off the front, and good to see Darrell in the thick of the action after almost a season off with injury. The white flag then, another sprint for TV Times taken by Verschuren. These are special preems, by the way, as well now here in the city of Stoke-on-Trent. Preems, remember, mean a prize at the white flag on the route. And this is Webster on the front here, now in pursuit, joining him here, Marshall Gayon, the yellow jersey leader of the Tour de France last season. Didn't have quite such a successful tour this year with the Toshiba team, but Darrell Webster, he'll have his hands full with young Darrell if he's on full form, because he has a tremendous turn of speed. And way below us, out on the circuit, the whole field. Right, that looks like Webster. Shed Gayon as he comes onto the circuit here up Station Road. There is Marshall Gayon. Oh dear me, the whole field have caught up as well. The red jersey of Rob Holden. Great success story for him this week. He's led the under-23 competition, and not just that, it's nice because he's the youngest man in the race at 20 years of age. The oldest man, you won't like me for saying it, is Jack Kershaw, who's 38, and he was in the forefront yesterday. And look at this, Verschuren goes through on the inside, and Manfred really wasn't paying attention. He was waiting for Verschuren to do that, but I think he was expecting him on the other side of the road. And now we've got Verschuren going clear, and Manfred has made a terrible mistake. He's lost the wheel, and the race is all over. And this man knows it. Kisses to the crowd, arms in the air. Paul Verschuren scores his first win of the year. So Verschuren over the line. Manfred, I think, he'll be equally happy with second place. I think he probably assessed he wasn't going to handle Paul Verschuren in the sprint anyway. As Paul Sherwin said, he is very, very rapid. This is the main field coming through now, led by Stephen Roach. They'll get the bell because they are one lap behind today. And it's Roach, Yates, and that is the order of the Fago boys. We know that Malcolm Elliott and Joey McLaughlin are in here. Now, all the bunch, by the way, let me explain a little point. You do ask the question. All the riders who finish in the same bunch are always given the same time. The man at the front has the same time as the rider at the back. There is no splitting of the gap in between, providing there is no recognisable gap between the riders. That's why you get the big sprint, even at the back of the race. But they sprint for the time, because riders will not take great risks. So for this reason, some riders don't contest the sprint when they know they are safely home in the same time as the rider at the front. And these two riders have just nipped away here from the field as they try to come up. One of them was Keith Reynolds, and the MLMBK team is really having a good mid-term in this race. And I think the other one was our persistent Marshal Gaillon, who also went clear. It's Gaillon on the left here, and Reynolds is going very well indeed. Reynolds gets the third spot. Gaillon is fourth, and the main field coming over the line now. There's the situation then after the stage 4A this morning. A win for Paul Verschuren, Jean Manfred second, Keith Reynolds third, Gaillon. And the frame number 3 can only be ridden by one man, the yellow jersey in this race, Malcolm Elliott, making his own adjustments to the brakes there on the front of the bike. But he needn't be in a big hurry because the level crossing gates have closed here as we've entered Wedgwood Park, and it looks as though the whole race has come to a halt. This is the only thing that will stop an international cycle race. You can't argue with the train. Now, the TV time sprint was to be here, but the board being held up there by the commissaires saying no sprint, so that has been cancelled. So out past Wedgwood House here, very, very beautiful part of the Potteries. The Trent and Mersey Canal also passes through here, and they have their own railway station as well. Now the action here, the sprint was cancelled, but the race has got off to a cracking start now, leaving the park. Elliott at the front there, Stephen Roach in the World Championship jersey. This is Ian Fagan, and there seems to be a lot of racing left in the legs of these riders today, despite that very short stop. That's Noel Shostek there. Speeds up to 35 miles an hour here. Sean Kelly in the group at the front. Malcolm Elliott following on Kelly's wheel. This is good action now by the stars of the Kellogg's Tour this year.
Well, as the riders here are, it's amazing me how they managed to race so quickly after a break, because the riders only had something like an hour. And it's this break is extremely interesting because Joey McLaughlin has actually missed out at the moment.
Well, these are the teammates of McLaughlin on the front, but the whole field coming down here now. This group has swelled to something like 20 riders on the sprint line there. Frank Hoster was the man to get the points. First time we've seen him. Sean Kelly second, and this is Joey McLaughlin. He's come up on the back of this leading group, so he was a little bit late to react to the attack by Elliott and Sean Kelly there in the yellow and Roach in the white, but he's done so he saved the day for the moment at least. Leading group here, something like 40 riders regrouping at the front there. We can see them all as we move away to the front, but they're in a very long line here, so the pressure quite clearly is still on at the front. Here is Rouvy now, the site of the third TV time sprint today. Remember, the first one was cancelled and the previous one won by Frank Hoster. No sprint really, Lammerts takes it, but the breakaway here more interested in making time, and this is forcing Fagor under pressure. Robert Miller then doing the work for the Fagor, the only Frenchman in the team, the world champion Stephen Roach. The whole of the Fagor team all doing the work for Malcolm Elliott. These are the leaders.
Well, these boys have gone away at just exactly the right time. As the early break went away, as the early break went away, you can see here Adrian Timmis, followed by Johan Lammerts. These riders were all in the original break that went away before the first hotspot sprint competition. Murdy Galder there from the BH team. Adrian Timmis coming through again, and the one rider we haven't seen just yet is Henry Manders, just on the far side of the picture. They made the ideal move of attacking straight over the junction of the two groups.
Well, Manders is the rider who hasn't worked over hard in this group. The young rider here, Szostek, he's only 21, and he'll be very pleased to be in this breakaway group. Look at this though, the Fagor team, we see them in action helping Elliott win those two opening stages and trying to get him home in Liverpool as well, and now we're seeing them here trying to limit the losses on that breakaway. Adrian Timmis, by the way, is the best rider in that leading group, and he's over 7 minutes behind. Time gap we're getting is 1 minute 47 seconds, so they're labouring to get clear of the group, but they are beginning to get away. So on the far horizon there, the outskirts of Birmingham, and now they're coming in to the finishing circuit here in Birmingham, led by Noel Szostek of the ADR team on the front. He's the boy in the lime colours there, the little man in the red half sleeves. That's a Javier Merguialdi from Spain, and Adrian Timmis, the local man from Cannock, now on the front. The other rider on the far side there, Henry Manders in the other white jersey on the right, and that is the main group with Jos Lammerts in the yellow and the blue sleeves. They are the same 5 men we've seen away now since they broke clear after the 12-mile point today. And this looks like Ian Fagan sneaking onto the circuit there. There he is in the distance. Well, he's only just broken away from the field, and he's managed to do a very good ride there to crack the field and escape on this circuit. So he's closing fast, Paul. They've now got the circuits to come. What do you think about Adrian Timmis? And he won here once in the milk race a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, Adrian knows his finish very well. In fact, he finished second to Alan Piper in one of the Kellogg City Centre races on almost this exact circuit, so he knows the finish very well. He is a local boy, but you've got to look at the two Dutchmen who are in this break, because two Dutchmen always together are the kind of riders that you've got to always be careful of. They're very, very good finishers.
The Fagor team have had a hard day today, one way or another. They've had to keep Sean Kelly in check and one or two other riders who've been just testing the water, softening them up for tomorrow perhaps. But the riders in the lead now, they will not be over concerned with, because once again they are not riders really affecting the overall yellow jersey of Malcolm Elliott. But even so, the momentum of the big bunch is now such that they may yet sweep them up on this finishing circuit. The gap as they came onto the circuit here was just 50 seconds, and now the chase is on to see if they can pull them back. This is Ian Fagan trying to get across the gap. He is approximately 26 seconds behind those 5 leaders, and now we're back here with the leaders. Lammerts on the front. White jersey at the back there is in fact Henry Manders. The other white jersey behind him is the man getting all the cheers here, by the way, Adrian Timmis from the Z Peugeot team. And I'm wondering if we could get a double out of the day here with this man, Noel Szostek, because Szostek on the other side of Manders in that lime green jersey is on for a double for Willy de Bosche, the team manager from Belgium, because this morning it was Paul Verschuren. It seems to be a busy day for Willy de Bosche, because also good English friends of his, Martin and Karen, got married today, and it could all happen here for a hat-trick, if you like, at the centre of Birmingham for the finish. On the front then, Szostek right on cue, breaking away or trying to break away here. Young professional Paul, and it would be great to win here.
Well, he is a new professional this year. In fact, he won 2 victories last year. 3 victories as an amateur. And you always got to be very careful with Belgians because they're good finishers. They tend to be able to slip away towards the end, and it looks as if that's exactly what he's trying to do here. But Adrian Timmis trying to keep everything together because Adrian would dearly love to win here in Birmingham.
And Fagan really is doing the ride. The MBK boys are having a great time in the Kellogg's Tour this year. They've had a poor season by any standard, but they're really trying now to break in. They've been on the attack every day. We saw Keith Reynolds finish 3rd this morning, and now Fagan is trying to make contact with the leaders at the moment. This is the pack here now, and they're chasing hard, but not hard enough, I don't think. The gap is slowly closing, but it's a good day for Malcolm Elliott if they don't catch the leading group. There is the gap, 45 seconds then, that's official, the main field. So they are closing. They've knocked off about 5 seconds since they joined the circuit. Do you think they can get over there, Paul?
Well, it's still feasible, Phil, because you can see the difference in the speed as we look at Ian Fagan here. The bunch are taking about 10 seconds a lap out of this chasing group, this leading group, so it is still possible.
Well, it's certainly giving the crowd a lot to shout at. It's made a real good finale here in Birmingham. The race, by the way, has averaged its best average speed of the Tour so far this afternoon, a shade over 25 miles an hour. Adrian Timmis anxious to be the winner here again today. The driving force, a teammate, by the way, of Joey McLaughlin in the Peugeot team. And Timmis now, having read the move well today, getting into this breakaway with these 4 other riders. Can he finish it off with a fine win? Szostek on the front. And behind Szostek, Henri Manders. Manders, for me, is the hot tip for the finish because he hasn't done a lot of work here. His manager came up earlier on and sort of told him to slow it down, not overdo it. And by the way, it was a move noted by Willy Deboscher, the manager of the ADR team, who said to me, the Weinman guy isn't working, because Willy does speak rather good English.
Well, Phil, Henry Manders here, still in 2nd place, is a very good rider to watch for this finish because he spent a couple of years in the Super Confex team, and the tactics of Jan Ras have always been very good, so I think he's one of the riders to watch when we come into that last lap.
Well, it looked like Carl Smith trying to nip away, Paul, off the front of the group. New professional this year, part of the Royal Chafes team. And Miller keeping things in check in the white and red jersey at the front. And while the Fagor team would like this bunch not to make contact, others have other ideas. Szostek looking over his shoulder to see what they can see down the long finishing straight. And the main field winding the way out from the town hall into New Street now. Well-tried finishing circuit this over the years in the back rider. Well, if it has, that's Manders, and it has. Well, that's very, very strange. This is a repeat of Paris-Roubaix this year, when it was Thomas Wegmuller who was brought to a halt. He stopped Manders, in fact. That's Merguialdi just dropped away there with the red top on. Szostek's realised it and accelerated. That's a tragedy. Mander in the distance there, serviced by the neutral service team, and now by his own team, and he's back in action. I think he may well have taken a new bike. Fagan's gone through on him, so the gap, about 20 seconds he's lost, and now that's an absolute tragedy. Henri Manders has lost this race because of a plastic bag in his back wheel. These 4 riders will not feel at all sympathetic as they now contest the last lap or so of the race. Carl Smith here, again trying to slip ahead of the field. And look at this, Szostek wants more action from Merguialdi.
As you can see, Merguialdi coming through here, but Johan Lammerts in 2nd place. Another Dutch rider who has spent a couple of years, several years with Peter Post in the Rally Panasonic team. In fact, in 1981 won the Tour of Flanders. He's another very good tactician, one to watch when we get to the finish.
Merguialdi of Spain from the BH team. Good to see them at last settling into this race. They had a thoroughly forgettable first 2 days, and it was feared at one time they mightn't be seeing this far in the race, but they are, and they're in this break. There in the distance is Manders and Fagan, and they're putting in a marvellous pursuit here, while at the front it's Timmis, and now it's Szostek goes. Szostek goes, switches sharply across. Merguialdi tries to grab his wheel. Timmis realises it too, so too does Lammert, but they formed a threesome behind, and Szostek is continuing the attack. A very good move indeed.
A very good move by this first-year professionals. He goes through with 1 lap lap to go. He's taken the most crucial time, the time when everybody's wondering, deciding where they're going to save a little bit for the sprint, and he's taken them down the back straight. And it's amazing to notice that he was the one who was the most nervous before. He was looking around to see where the bunch is going, where the bunch is coming from, and he's gone away now.
What a great time to break away. Willie DeBoschi will be uncontrollable tonight if he lands a double for the ADR team today. He said this morning he thought that the pottery he received in Stoke-on-Trent was the finest prize he'd ever seen in world cycling. Now he's got the chance here of doing the double in the Midlands. Well, we'll see. Szostek's gone clear at the moment. The other three have definitely taken up the chase, and that's rather spoiled the pursuit by Manders and Fagan, because they're now being pegged a little bit off the back. This is Szostek then, going clear at the moment. And look at the gap he's got. So Noel Szostek, 21 years of age, qualifies, of course, for the red jersey of Rob Holden, but too far behind overall to endanger Rob Holden's lead today. Szostek then slowing down a little bit now. Merguialdi is the rider from the Tour de France this year who's taking up the pursuit. It's getting ever so close now. The finish is in the distance rather than Lammert's winning it. But Johan Lammert's his first win as a professional for 2.5 years. The main field then filing in now, and the big sprint is on. McLaughlin again is taking the top place from the bunch over the line. That will be 7th place for Joey McLaughlin today, so he's still showing he is a man to be reckoned with in the big sprints. Let's have a look at that replay again. Lammerts came from nowhere. He just took the dive, grabbed the wheel of Szostek, didn't waste hardly a second before he went for the inside, and Szostek was sold out. Here he is, top of the pile again. McLaughlin is second, Yates is third, and Roach is fourth. The penultimate day of this 668 miles race. The longest day in prospect, the hilliest day in prospect. We should see some decisions made today. Who better to ask then as to who will lead the Kellogg's Tour tonight than the riders themselves?
Well, I think it's such a long day today and anything can happen, and I really don't want to say.
I hope it's going to be me.
A Fago rider.
Which one?
Wait and see.
I'd have a guess at it. I think Elliott will be leader tonight because number one, he have a very strong team, and number two, they're in a good position. The Fago team, they have 3 riders up there, so I think he will hold on to the jersey today.
I think it's going to be Malcolm Elliott, no troubles.
It's very difficult to say, but hopefully Malcolm Elliott will be. But there are so many riders still in contention that it's going to be very, very tight in Bristol tonight.
Some say Stephen Rose tonight.
They're liars. They know something I don't know.
Well, we'll know the answers in about 8 or 9 hours time. Here we are, back in the start here in Birmingham. And it looks like wheel trouble already there for the world champion, Stephen Roach, as they roll away. And the last man onto his bicycle here, Jon Erik Ostergaard from the Isoglass team. Over the flyover. This, I understand, was the very first flyover ever built in Britain as we make our way out of Birmingham. Sean Kelly in early trouble. No need to hurry just yet, because despite the 151 miles today, a gentle meander of 10 miles first. And that, by the way, makes the day 161, of course, but the time only taken when this flag is pulled in, and it is now the official start of the day. And it seems while the Tour of Britain goes one way, there is a different type of tour going the other way today, with the steam locomotives heading to a rally. Steve Jones, the first rider to attack, and Jones is a local boy here from just outside of Birmingham, and this is causing reaction from Sean Yates. And Yates has been a strong man this week, and they've wiped up Steve Jones here. A little bit of a split forming. And this is the sprint in Henley and Arden, the TV time sprint. Malcolm Elliott taking 3 seconds bonus here, beating Wegmuller. And in fact, that is wrong, because Elliott was given the victory. Wegmuller was in second place. The main field going by, not too far behind. And it looks now a little bit of sadness here, because behind the field, the British champion Steve Jockin, with injuries which occurred a couple of days ago, is calling it a day. And that is sad, because Jockin, in fact, when he came to Birmingham last year in the Kellogg's Tour, was the stage winner. Now down to Stratford, and the field still keeping itself together. The odd flurry of attacks coming and going, but nobody breaking away. Elliott's got himself 3 very valuable seconds at that first sprint. This is the second TV time sprint, and we've got in the centre of the picture in the yellow there Walsham dropping away, but coming now in the white jersey and challenging him in fact is Mark Walsham. Nick Barnes in white, the TV times leader, is on top. Walsham second, and Steve Jones was third there, so that's very, very good news indeed for Barnes. Any racing cyclist knows the blue flag here indicates the very steep climb away from Broadway, Paul, is Fish Hill.
Yes, and this is our first real big...
So it's out at the Kellogg store. Steve Sefton coming now into Cheltenham. Mark Walsham, narrowly beaten in the one at Stratford, is in the lead of those 2 Bilton riders, being led out here well by his Bilton teammates. But watch this, because this is the white jersey of the leader, Nick Barnes. He said this morning he feels he's as quick as Walsham in the sprint finish. Well, let's see. Walsham's chasing him down here now as Barnes goes for the sprint. Walsham's into his slipstream. That's good for Mark Walsham. Walsham really is the fast sprinter, and Walsham comes over Nick Barnes. So this is a great competition now. Walsham gets it this time from Barnes. That's a 1-2 each way round so far today. This one's for Walsham, Barnes, and Sean Yates there gets a 1 second bonus. That competition, you know, is going to have a great finale in Westminster tomorrow. Sean Yates at the feeding stage, slipstream. That's good for Mark Walsham. Whole field together then, out of the feeding station now. There are in fact 2 feeding stations today because the race is such a long one. And now notice the incline of the trees in the distance there. This is Birdlip, a vicious climb away from Gloucestershire, the first category climb of the day. Joey McLaughlin, I would have thought, might want an attack here.
Well, Phil, this is a climb that in the past has been used for in many races to launch an attack for winning breakaways.
Stephen Hodge leading Malcolm Elliott, Joey McLaughlin. We've had reports all day that there is an enormous crowd towards the top of this climb, by the way. It's a very narrow climb under the best of conditions. Frederic Vichot leading up on the group here. And Stephen Hodge, quite a climber this week, in second place, the Australian teammate of Sean Kelly in the CAS Sport Life team. And Lily White also on the left of our picture, that familiar style when he's out of the saddle, swinging around on the bicycle. Also in the green there, Joey McLaughlin. And somebody beginning to move up too on the outside of the bunch here, trying to get up with the leaders. Slipped up a gear, continues the attack. This is an attack then going, as one of the Zeb Peugeot riders puts in an attack in the trees. It looks like Henri Abadie, twice a winner of the King of the Mountains title this year in 2 of Europe's major races. And now Abadie is trying to go clear, and they seem to have let him go at the moment. Quite frankly, I'm not too sure they could do anything about it. Robert Miller at the front now to try and whip up the field here behind. And Gianetti on the far side in that white jersey, the leader of the King of the Mountains. Noticeably, though, we haven't seen too much of Sean Kelly today, and I really felt that Kelly was putting in a bid for this title. Gianetti, if he can gather some points on this climb, will be making safe that King of the Mountains competition, because that ends today. There's no hills tomorrow in the city of London.
Well, Phil, as you notice here, Malcolm Elliott is keeping a very close eye on Joey McLaughlin, because today's the day that Joey's going to try and surprise Malcolm, and there he's already marking his man.
Well, McLaughlin really has got to get rid of Elliott if he is going to win this Kellogg's Tour, and Elliott making sure McLaughlin doesn't get an inch. Still a little bit higher up the climb now. In the far distance over his shoulder is Gloucester, and Abadie did look over his shoulder too, and the progress is slow but sweet as he makes his way up towards the summit of Birdlip, where we understand this marvellous crowd is awaiting. He's been quite a revelation this year, Abadie. Nobody really had heard of him until this year. He had a very good Tour de France, and now we've seen him in the action every day this week in the Kellogg's Tour. He's suffering now, though, as he tries to keep the rhythm high. Style of a climber, and it's working. He's going clear, and we're obviously getting near the summit, because the crowd line now is beginning to filter past this man, Henri Abadie.
A bit further.
Into the shade of the trees. Well, Paul, this is looking good.
Well, this is a good move by Abadie. It's the same kind of move that he did in the Tour de France on the 3rd stage, when he went clear and took a long time of he was away for a long time, and he earned himself the Mountains jersey for quite some days.
Well, here are the crowds in Britain. He could be climbing a stage now in the Tour de
Are you ready? Yes, we are, and it celebrates the... His father was from the Flemish-speaking part of the country, and his mum from the French side.
Well, Eddie was famously once asked, Eddie, do you identify as French or Flemish? He said, I'm Belgian.
The rollout has started. At the front of the grid, they've got many of the national champions. 12 of the current national road champions are in the race. Also up at the front, the reigning world champion Alejandro Valverde, who happens to also be the champion of Spain. The defending champion was also there, Geraint Thomas, and the reigning Olympic Games gold medalist. One of the big hopes for the Belgians in this year's race for stage victories, and perhaps a stint in yellow, Greg Van Avermaet. 300 metres before that yellow flag comes in, Robbie, and then the race gets underway officially. The first big battle is who gets into the initial breakaway. And the race for the red number. Is the most combative. A title overall that was won last year by the Irishman Dan Martin.
And there it is.
Back to Brussels, two key climbs that have featured throughout the history of cycling in the famous Tour of Flanders, the Meurder-Gettingsbergen and the Bosberg.
The first attacker not getting the gap.
176 coureurs au départ. The official start of the day stage at 12:26, 12:26. Stage 1 of the 106th edition of the Tour de France between Brussels and Brussels via Charleroi. 194.5 kilometers of racing today and 176 riders at the start.
Two of the favourites for the stage victory, Groenewegen, Viviani, Caleb Ewan and Peter Sagan. But the race is on to get into the breakaway. In third position, Robbie, it is Greg Van Avermaet.
Well, that is an interesting one to see Van Avermaet so active so early. You put these Belgian riders, particularly the Flemish riders, on the Flemish roads, and they just can't help themselves. It's stronger than they are. Maybe the pull of a polka dot jersey, and there's a little gap for this small group. Van Avermaet takes a look and says, this is the moment, out of the saddle. This is like a sprint.
This is a serious move from Greg Van Avermaet. Berhani's in second position. He's the Eritrean national champion for the Kofidis team. And Greg Van Avermaet, this is extraordinary. Very rarely do you see such a big figure of the sport in the breakaway on the first day of the tour.
And that is giving it everything, Van Avermaet. The others all looking back to assess how that gap is opening up as they leave the centre of Brussels and the European Commission building well behind them now, and the race starting to fall into an early pattern we see so often. But the first stage is always a difficult one. There's a lot of keen guys, and I would have expected a bit more of a fight from some of the Flemish riders in particular, going towards Ninove, Kierazbergen and that first KOM. And I think this is back up.
It is Montegroup Goubert flicking off from the front. Katusha Alpecin also represented in the breakaway, and that's a team that's had a really difficult season. One of the famous football grounds here in Brussels. And the Belgians, since 2002, their national football team has gone through the roof. They had a big restructure in the way that they
do the national football development, and they sent out an edict to all the junior coaches that your objective is to have kids fall in love with the game. And if they fall in love with the game, then they'll just want to play. They won't be going to training. They'll be going to play with their mates. And it's worked. It's worked really well.
What's also worked really well is that acceleration by Cadek van Avermaet. One rider in the background trying to bridge across. These four have opened up a handy gap very, very quickly. And that tends to switch off the peloton. Not many riders will be game to try and ride across to a four-man move like this.
Not one with that sort of horsepower.
Oh, in fact, it wasn't Bakkart. It's Sandro Murisit, the Belgian rider from Wanty Group Goubert.
On a 33, first-timers in the Tour de France this year. And also in the move for the Katusha Alpecin team, it was Mads Wirtz that managed to get himself into the move, along with Berhard. And with the peloton, they look like they're in close-down mode.
Yeah, they certainly are, across the road, gutter to gutter, and this is exactly what the sprinters teams would have wanted. A small group getting away. This is very controllable for the teams who want to bring everything back together for a bunch sprint here in Laken, where the Royal Palace is here in Brussels. Van Avermaet here on the back, 111. And I've got to admit, I am surprised to see him going on the attack. When there's opportunities ahead, like Monday into Epinal, it's certainly a finish that suits Greg van Avermaet.
It shows the real change in this team, CCC. That's the team that for the past almost 10 years we've known as BMC. The team where Cadel Evans won the Tour de France back in 2011. And for the last few years, Richie Porte has been their big focus to try and win the Tour overall. No longer a Richie Porte that team. He's across at Trek Segafredo. Huge reduction in their budget as well. So it's a team that Van Avermaet has spoken about is they can race with more freedom and hunt for stages.
Not only can, they must. They don't have a sprinter. They don't have a GC rider. So it's a team full of opportunists, and they've got to try and take every opportunity.
Well, last year, that team, as beating and slowing down a little bit, or the lack of the lead-out train that it'll have at one of the smaller French teams, RKS Samson.
I think a combination of both. I think, a year older, just not quite with that punch that he had from 2008 through 2016, maybe.
He went 12 Grand Tours in a row, winning a stage.
Yeah, he's been quite incredible. And I always maintain that as an elite athlete, whatever the sport, I think the window of being at your absolute best is 8 years. You might have a couple of years pretty good on the way up and a couple of years pretty good on the way down. For the absolute peak 8. He's been through that 8. He's had a couple of years just coming off the board.
Mikel Landa from Movistar in the blue colours on the left.
He's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get with Landa. Almost, in a way, you sort of can know what you're going to get. At some stage, he will attack his teammates.
At the rear is the Eritrean national champion, Natner Berhard, back with the French team. He spent a couple of seasons across the team we know as Dimension Data. Prior to that, he rode with the Europcar team, now known as Total, formerly Direct Energy. So he's got a good feel for the French squads, and he loves the idea of not just trying to inspire kids from Eritrea. He wants to inspire all of Africa to race a bike. He's going about it the right way.
He certainly is. He's an entertaining rider, and when we get into the mountains, expect to see him here a 3D of the course, and where our front group finds themselves. They are the Tête de la Course, and that breeze, 12 kilometres an hour at the moment, so just a breeze. And there is the Mur de Grammont, the Mur van Gerardsbergen, a Category 3 climb.
Originally, the race organisers, ASO, they wanted to take in more of the roads, the famous Flemish roads from the Tour of Flanders in this region, but the locals said, not a good decision. It'll be too tough to close things down with the crowds we expect for the Tour de France, and you don't want to lose one of the contenders to win the race overall on day one. The right decision was made.
It would have been on equal footing with a Roubaix stage.
Oh no, that was fantastic.
And they
Stage 9 last
They did that last year, so they said, we don't do that 2 years in a row. Don't count it out for the future.
Yeah. Last year was as exciting as that stage was. The race lost Richie Porte and Rigoberto Urán. Two guys that would have been great animators of the race in the mountains. But gee, I enjoyed the stage.
It was a fantastic stage to watch. and an incredible winner in John Degenkolb. Such an emotional win for him, coming back from those injuries he suffered in that training incident where the team was hit by a car, and it took him a long time
3
to come
years
back. And that was really the peak. He'd really got himself back where he was before. It was a huge moment for
Elected for the tour. So the team very much focusing on Richie, leaving their sprinter at home. Luke Durbridge squeezing his way forward. He's a man of these roads. He loves the Tour of Flanders, Paris-Roubaix. He's got a job today to look after the Yates twins.
Well, there we see the choppers of the VIPs.
Nice way to watch the tour.
Pretty good gig to get.
Stop in a field, have a champagne.
Watch the race go by, jump back in, go to another spot, sit down, have a picnic lunch.
There'll be no champagne today. Beer, fritz and mussels. The pace is really picking up within this peloton. You can see the movement going around the outside. The break has moved out, though, Robbie, now to more than 4 minutes as they approach the town of Gettysburg.
Well, they're coming in. They've just crossed over the railway line, over the bridge, and we see that so often in the Tour of Flanders, sprinting up the bridge, and now make their way down the Grote Straat, down towards the lowest point where they cross the River Dender. And just look at the crowds through Geraardsbergen here. Just on the left-hand side where I have my daily stop-out training for a sandwich and a coffee, and then keep going.
A magnificent day on Flemish roads. They've got one of their local heroes in the breakaway sitting in second position, Greg Van Avermaet, as the climb starts. They're not onto the cobblestones yet, but the legs will be paying the price for the effort that they've already exerted.
Yeah, this is the first kick up to the market, right in the centre of Geraardsbergen, and that's where the cobbles begin as well. 1 kilometre to the top, and they're about to go onto those famous cobbles when they swing left in front of the church.
And it is Van Avermaet who leads them on. There's the left-hand turn. They're onto the cobblestones. Mats Wirtz wants to stick with him.
And they come past Bar Guidon, owned by former professional Frederik Penne. Also the fan club of Remco Evenepoel, young Belgian. But at the moment, it's one of the older Belgians, one of the veterans in attack.
Burhan it is, the Eritrean national champion. He wants the points for the King of the Mountains classification. When he made his first appearance at the Tour de France, it was along with his compatriot Daniel Tekla-Harmanot, and Harmanot had a stint in the King of the Mountains jersey. Burhan wants it today. Van Avermaet is chasing.
Well, he knows he can't out-sprint Van Avermaet. I just wonder how well Natnael Burhan knows the Muur van Geraardsbergen.
Not as well as Greg.
Greg is just going to cover every single move, set the pace from the front if someone attacks. He'll just wind them back in. And I wonder if they'll try and offload them on that really steep section. It says 13% on the profile. It's a little bit more than that. And certainly on those rough cobbles, it feels like it's about 20.
And they're about to make the right-hand turn onto the narrow sector of the climb. And this is where Van Avermaet will really feel at home.
Yeah, they're coming to the approach of the Muur proper, if it were, as it were. So they'll come through the houses, and then the real Muur starts. Comes into that little forested section. The cobble's a little bit smoother just here, relayed in recent years. Further on, they're original.
And you'll be able to see the change. Van Avermaet leading. Maurice, the other Belgian, the Flandrian, in the blue colours on the left. He's sticking to the wheel of one of the national heroes. This is where it gets narrow, and this is where it gets tough. And this is where Van Avermaet is desperately trying to come into his own.
Well, he's trying to ride them out of the wheel and stay in control at the front. Mats Wirtz is trying to get himself up in contention on the front. Van Avermaet takes the best line through the inside, swings wide, makes them go back into the wheel. He'll come back through the inside of the next corner, and the sprinter's on this, the steeper section. Burhan pays for the effort.
Burhan, if it was on a high mountain pass, he'd be the best of the climbers. But this is not a high mountain pass. This is one for the Belgian specialist, and it's the Olympic champion, Van Avermaet leading, and this is the race for the polka dot jersey. He's almost there. Maurice is challenging. Van Avermaet with one last kick. Van Avermaet collects the points. He's got polka dots.
And the drop of the head from Maurice, he did everything he could. He was searching for the smoothest part in the gutter as well, and tried to make an acceleration. But whenever other riders tried that, Van Avermaet always held them on the hip, got them on the outside of the turn. Really intelligent.
Look at the change, though, in the advantage for the breakaway. Because of the increase of the intensity back in the peloton, the gap has quickly gone from 4 minutes down to 2:13.
Yeah, well, that's that big acceleration, fighting for position. Border Hansgrohe at the front with the left, led by Marcus Burkhardt.
They're protecting,
quick step.
They're protecting Emmanuel Bookman. He's racing for the general classification. Because Peter Sagan, he can take care of himself.
Yeah, Sagan's always there, of course. So they're bringing up both Sagan and Bookman. And along with Ineos, we're there on the right of screen with all their team looking after Thomas and Bernal.
And once they get themselves to the front, they're happy to close it down. They just wanted to get into this position with their 2 leaders well protected.
Just be in control.
Dylan Van Baarle is the rider in the red and black colours on the right-hand side of the screen, who is a specialist for this region.
Well, this will be the slowest that Dylan Van Baarle's ridden up the Muur van Gerardsbergen in a long time, the classic specialist. But you saw in the front, Greg van Avermaet, that was a big effort, bottom to top, chasing Berhan, and then also holding off Murisa, who did a great job. And you can see how disappointed he was. He wasn't able to grab those points. So we got the expected result, but it was a great battle.
It was. This is now Casper Asgreen. He sits at the front, the blue colours. Marco Haller at the back with the big K on his jersey from the Katusha Alpecin team. Started his season down under this year with a victory in the Lexus of Blackburn at Bay Cycling Crits.
He's just pushed on. He certainly only is focused on the points. And he thinks, well, if I can just have to look at one rider, I think I can have him covered. Murisa has made a little acceleration on the left, just to do a turn, though. So Van Avermaet would be very pleased with taking the maximum points on the Category 3. Only 1 point available at the top of the Bosberg.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what Greg Van Avermaet does over the top of the Bosberg. As your thoughts earlier on, that perhaps he just secures the King of the Mountains and then waits for the peloton. They're under the cobblestones, they're on the Bosberg.
Well, this really, really hurts when you've already done the Muur, especially at the pace that these guys did it. This was traditionally the final climb of the Tour of Flanders. The scene of guys like Edward van Hooydonk sprinting bottom to top and going solo to win the Tour of Flanders.
Whenever I see the word Bosberg or this climb, I think of Edward van Hooydonk.
And his nickname, Eddie Bosberg.
The winner of the Tour of Flanders in 89 and 91.
Van Avermaet on the front, a little bit out of the saddle, check over the shoulder. You can see the top right where the car is just going through. So it's not a long climb, dead ahead.
Look at how hard Wirtz and Berhan are working, trying to get back with Van Avermaet as they're sprinting for the top of the climb, and Morica has got himself in front. Van Avermaet is battling, and it'll be 1 point, so there'll be 2 points apiece, equal at the top of the leaderboard for the King of the Mountains classification. Van Avermaet will get it on a count back, having won at the top of the Cat 3, which is a superior climb.
Even so, I was surprised to see it go the way of Murisa, but he's done a fantastic ride. I don't think Van Avermaet could do better than he did there. Put so much energy into the first one.
He didn't let him win.
No, he certainly didn't.
He won in his own right.
Well, come over the top of the Bosberg and now heading towards Kalmarden. And we'll see if this break comes back together and what Greg Van Avermaet decides to do. Our peloton completely strung out as they're still on the downhill section.
What does the peloton do? Because leading into the climb, it was the teams protecting riders that are racing for the final yellow jersey. Now surely it goes back to the teams.
Today, I also don't like to say it, I don't want to be negative, but there's no point staying out in front.
You think the break has zero chance of surviving?
0,00.
There'll be occasions where the break does make it, but you don't think today is one of those days. You've made that pretty clear.
Le Château de la Berlière.
This was destroyed by the troops throughout the French Revolution with the invasion back in 1794, and has since been well rebuilt. And the moat around the outside looks magnificent, particularly on a warm day like this.
Would you dare to jump off the top balcony?
No. Maybe the first one, knowing full well just how deep it is. But don't
Probably
jump
about
into
3 foot.
Yeah, well then no. I wouldn't. Simon Yates, number 108, he's a wild card in this year's race. Had a disappointing Giro. He's here, in inverted commas, to support his brother, which he will do. But if he doesn't lose time in the first week, he's a threat.
Yeah, he will be a threat, but here's Van Avermaet now, and that is what I had expected. So with the breakout at 3 minutes, Van Avermaet has thrown out the anchor. So that's enough. I'll get myself onto the podium this afternoon. I'll be in polka dots tomorrow, and that's enough energy spent. So he's only been out there for 50 kilometres.
So if it was a rider of lesser stature than Greg Van Avermaet that did that, I imagine he'd probably be criticised by not respecting the breakaway. But because it's Greg Van Avermaet, he's got the track record that he does, he'll actually be praised for riding so smartly. There's rules for some and rules for others.
Well, just a matter of getting position and then keeping the pace high to keep their guys safe. Bookman is in a good position, and I just spotted Greg Van Avermaet right back towards the front of the bunch again. He did the job early, forced the break, got the points, will wear the polka dots.
55.
And at 55 kilometres an hour, well, he's up there again on the cobbles, right where he should be, where he loves it.
It is strung out. This is serious pressure. Small gaps opening up. Huge presence of the Bora Hansgrohe team.
That was Marcus Burkhardt, the one who created the gap. He led his team onto the cobbles, did all that hard work. Now he's dropping back through and the gaps opening up.
There's a number of riders with live onboard cameras. This is near the back of the peloton. We're on with Kevin Van Malsen from the Monte Group Gobert team. That's Nicolas Ede that we're looking at. He's a former winner of the King of the Mounts classification at the Volta a España. He won't enjoy this at all.
The man behind him would have been Tom Scoins because he's been there so often throughout the day, just sitting relaxed. Rider off to the right, bunny hop over the hole. Trying to find the smoothest way, but it does hold risks.
A mechanical problem. And this is Viviani. This is one of the favourites for the stage. De Koning Quickstep, they've been amongst the chasers for anybody in the peloton with splits opening in front of them. This is their favourite puncher of the day.
No panic from Viviani. Got the drink bottle. Okay. Another bike.
Disc wheels, swap bikes, not the wheel.
Yep.
That's exactly what you spoke about 10 minutes ago. This is Daniel Oss now at the front for the Bora Hansgrohe team as they've exited the cobblestone sector.
And that's significant. They've exited the cobbled sector, but look at the pressure still being applied by Daniel Oss. There were little splits.
And the rider from FDJ in the red, white and blue colours, the first of them is the big Frencho, Thibaut Pinot, Robbie, riding near the front.
Think back a few years ago when the race went over the cobbles and the man who was being dropped, swapping bikes, swearing, having a tantrum and losing a massive amount of time was Thibaut Pinot. That's a good sign already for his tour, even though it's a short section.
It's an attitude sign.
It is.
It's an attitude sign. It's a good one. Berhan, Murasey and Wirtz, they've been off the front since kilometre zero effectively. They're about to be reeled back in. It's now down to 14 seconds.
And it looks like we're going to be sprinting for maximum points.
Indeed, we're 4 kilometres away from the intermediate sprint at this point.
Just 3.5 kilometres. It's 69.5. So 3.5 kilometres from that intermediate sprint. And look at the splits in the peloton.
The fact that Elio Viviani has had a puncher, for these guys that are in the third group, it's good news for them because De Koning Quickstep, they'll be back supporting Viviani as opposed to driving at the front of the race. If Viviani was in that front group, then life would be really tough for anybody caught in this third peloton.
Well, there will be a bit of panic back here. Any GC riders caught in Group 2 and 3 will be panicking a little bit now.
Lots of the blue jerseys, the De Koning Quickstep in the third group, waiting for Viviani.
Now, you know that after the sprint, generally
Alexander Kristoff, and Jasper Philipsen, the young Belgian, one of his key lead-out men, is with him as well.
So mechanical troubles for a number of riders across that cobbled section. The race split into 3 big groups.
Day 1 of the Tour de France, and it hasn't taken long for a little bit of drama.
But I do think this will come back once we get to the sprint and through it. And Group 2 has now ridden across to Group 1 and made a much bigger gap in between. Our breakaway of 3 still off the front, attacking each other now. Mads Woods.
He wants the prize as the most combative on the day to get a small stint on the podium. There's the intermediate sprint, 3 kilometres, 20 for first place, 17, 15 for the minor positions, down to 1 point for 15th.
And it's all that's left now for these riders out there. Van Avermaet has taken the polka dot jersey. The others have got nothing so far. Most combative, take the intermediate sprint.
This is Dan Martin, number 121 from UAE, Dan Martin. And this is not the front group. Simon Yates is also in this group for Mitchelton Scott in the black and yellow colours.
And overtake these 3 riders. And now the impetus has also gone out of this group. Mads Woods made the attack. Oh, Burhan, careful, a little look over the shoulder at the wrong moment, nearly clipped the wheel.
And now the chase, this second major peloton on the road. All the blue colours at the front of the Koenig Quick-Step. The teammates for Elia Viviani as they go wide around that traffic island. That's good news for Dan Martin. That's his opportunity to rejoin the front of the race.
Well, they're going to come back pretty quickly now. They're still just outside a kilometre before that intermediate sprint for the green jersey points. And this Quick-Step, the Koenig Quick-Step driven second group, they're going to cross this gap. It's going to be the riders out of this group taking the points.
Still Daniel Oss at the front. Vincenzo Nibali is in this group. Adam Yates is in this group with Matteo Trentin, the man in white. Michael Matthews, Sonny Colbrelli, Egan Bernal and Geraint Thomas are also here. So too is Wilco Calderman for Sunweb.
Mikael Schad from CCC. He swings off, gives the flick of the elbow. It's Bora who take over again. Our screen saying 1.5 from Le Bonvillers. That's where the intermediate sprint is. Our ticker in the top left is telling us 700 metres.
A few Movistar jerseys in this second group.
Max Schachmann, the German champion from Bora Hansgrohe, also in this group. This is the front of the race. Daniel Oss. Well, when you can't see his hair from front on, you know it's going quick.
That's true.
Under the kilometre to go for the green jersey points.
This is the first of the battles for the green jersey. But whoever wins the stage will be the rider with the outright lead in the battle for the points classification, and also the yellow jersey. But Peter Sagan is on target for a record 7th green jersey. The red colours lining up as well for Sunweb. Will Michael Matthews get himself involved? He has won green in the past.
So Matthews is on the right. He's 2 positions further back behind Peter Sagan. Sagan now in 4th wheel. Colbrelli coming up on the left-hand side from Bahrain Merida, trying to take that position as well. Matthews now finds himself on the wheel of Peter Sagan. Matteo Trentin on the left going as well.
Matthews doesn't look too interested. It is Colbrelli leading out, Peter Sagan, then followed by Greg Van Avermaet. Michael Matthews conservative, Sagan maximum points, Colbrelli, Van Avermaet the minor placings, Michael Matthews in 4th, and here comes the chase from the Koenig Quick-Step in blue.
Well, Van Avermaet keeps chasing seconds as well. He's got himself the polka dot jersey, but putting that sprint in, 1 second for Greg Van Avermaet. He's most definitely ahead of all his teammates on GC.
Which we spoke about earlier in terms of the team time trial tomorrow and potentially getting that leader's jersey. Sagan first, Colbrelli second, Van Avermaet again racing from the shoulders up intelligently in 3rd.
And Michael Matthews also intelligently, no expenditure of energy, and takes 4th. Trentin, much the same. He got himself up there, then just followed through in 5th, didn't do a sprint.
20 points for Peter Sagan, 17 for Sonny Colbrelli, 15 for Greg Van Avermaet, 13 points for Michael Matthews. This is Luke Rowe on the right from Ineos. This is a gaggle of riders from the Cofidis team. And this is the group containing Dan Martin.
Also,
Viviani is in this group, so the Takuni Quickstep team are chasing without their man Viviani in contact.
And also no significant chase in this group. They're really dawdling through that line and really need someone to get going. That is a big gap at this stage in the race, and if the other sprinters' teams get a bit of a sniff of this, they might just apply a bit more pressure.
And for Takuni Quickstep, they've got Michael Murku in here, the Danish national champion. He's the captain on the road for this team. So if there's any need for communication, he'll be very quickly on the radio. At the moment, he looks pretty calm. He's sitting 5-6 wheels from the back of the group. And the call at the front for the close down, that's Daniel Oss, who was taking that position, the man who's now just having a drink. And that's relief for Dan Martin.
Yeah, well, that's a big let-off for that group that we've just been talking about, been left behind. Nobody pushing the pace now, riding in a slight tailwind.
Yeah, they have been let off the hook.
So they should just quite easily pedal their way back to this. You never know, unless there's another big acceleration. Whatever the case, if you're sitting in that back group, you'd be pretty nervous.
Here he is, Dan Martin, number 121. Last year he won the prize as the most combative in the Tour, and the gap at 119, they'll close it. But that was a dangerous amount of time to be behind.
Yeah, well, you look at how fast these guys are travelling now. They've got going, they're riding around 50 kilometres an hour, where the front of the race is doing about 35. Thomas and Bernal into position and trying to keep them out of danger as the race dives into this tunnel. It's going to be quite a while in the darkness as they go under the Triumphal Arch here in the centre of Brussels.
It's put on the perfect day, Brussels. The temperatures into the mid-20s, not a lot of wind to speak of. The crowds have been out in huge numbers, as big as we've seen anywhere in the Tour de France in recent years. The peloton about to emerge out the other side of that tunnel. And Ineos on the right-hand side, the red and black colours, making sure they protect the defending champion, Geraint Thomas, and one of the pre-race favourites, the 22-year-old Colombian, Egan Bernal. Yellow is everywhere. There's the European Commission building. But the outer edges of that building don't actually touch the ground. They're built like a suspension bridge and held from the hub in the middle. A chance to take a look at that building earlier on today.
Well, we get a look at this as the riders are underground and they're going underneath the Jubilee Park. And it's also not just the 50th anniversary of Eddie Merckx's first win in the Tour de France, the 50th anniversary of that park. They just went underneath through the Madou Tunnel, and now the battle hots up for the sprinters, getting them into position with 6.5 kilometres to go. Left of screen, Team Ineos with the general classification riders, and the rest, it's all about the fast men.
And these wide open roads, it makes it so much more difficult for the sprinters to control because there's so many opportunities for riders to move up.
I'm seeing Alexander Kristoff right in the middle, a little bit of shoulder to shoulder. Left-hand side, still Soudal Lotto, Caleb Ewan on the back of that train. And Ineos, they just want to get to the front and get to a skinnier part of the course. They can just maintain position, be safe, not lose any time.
And Bahrain Merida also in the middle for Sonny Colbrelli. Tim Wellens also towards the front for Soudal Lotto.
Right-hand turn is Kwiatkowski who leads them through. Well, he's always there when the going gets fast and technical.
He is so reliable, the former world champion. He is protecting two riders this year, Geraint Thomas, the defending champion, and Egan Bernal. Meanwhile, at the back, number 3 for that team, Jonathan Castroviejo. He doesn't want to get in amongst those fast finishers.